Jahlil Okafor was one of the most promising suspects in the NBA, but managed to destroy his career in just a couple of seasons. How did he do that? Due to the fact that both of his parents were accomplished collegiate basketball players, Jahlil Okafor has had an excellent pre-NBA background and some really good environment for growing into a professional athlete. He displayed his skill at a young age, although he had challenges along the way. He was profoundly impacted by the tragic loss of his mother when he was only 9 years old. Many could relate with how basketball became his outlet and helped him get through difficult times. His abilities advanced quickly, and by the 9th grade, at 6'7", he was already receiving offers from prestigious universities like DePaul University and was enrolled in one of the most difficult high schools in Chicago. Hello basketball fans, and welcome to Hoop Vision. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Takes only a second, costs nothing, and will give you access to more basketball stories. With Whitney Young School consistently appearing on Division I rosters from top to bottom, Chicago's basketball landscape is truly remarkable. Prior to receiving widespread attention, Okafor developed his skill set and Chicago reputation around the block during his freshman year, studying from teammates and other top players in the region. He averaged 22 and 12 with 5 blocks in his second year. Jahlil shot to fame as a sophomore, finishing as the nation's second best player behind Andrew Wiggins. He gained recognition for his incredible footwork, bully ball style of play, the softest touch in the game, and elegance while doing it all. If you want to win the high school game, you play like Jahlil Okafor. He had the capacity to make the most of his bulk frame and was aware that no one could physically match him. Double teaming him was the only way to slow him down, but sometimes he'd either pass it out for an assist or score over both players. In the end, it didn't make a lot of difference. He went on to win every major accolade in the following years, including Mr. Basketball, an MVP award from the All-American game, and the title of best in his class at the end of his career following Wiggins' reclassification. That year, Okafor was the one who committed to Duke University alongside Tyus Jones, a native of Minnesota. The college setting was a perfect fit for his game. Out of his first 30 field goal attempts, he made 25. Arguably, we've never seen a more polished post player at the collegiate level than him. This guy honed his back-to-the-basket technique and was something similar to Hakeem of college players. His arsenal was stacked, as he had 10 go-tos and counter moves. The NCAA had not witnessed such a seamless and organic post game in a long time. Due to his skill, everyone knew that Jahlil would be a one and done. He was predicted to be the first pick in the draft for the most of the year. He led his team over the stacked Badgers lineup, won the national championship, and won ACC Player of the Year with averages of 17 and 8 on an absurd 66% from the field. Okafor announced his intention to enter the draft as expected, but Karl-Anthony Towns, another outstanding big man, emerged from the NCAA and took center stage as the front runner. Jahlil Okafor versus Karl-Anthony Towns was one of the most contentious draft choices in recent memory. Both players received a lot of support. Jahlil was the one who could start making an impression right away and was probably the better college player, while Towns was probably a higher risk, higher reward athlete with much more room to develop. Okafor's greatest strength was criticized more so than his weaknesses in this game. His subpar defensive play, particularly at center, was a cause for concern, but back-to-the-basket centers were becoming extinct. The question was whether a championship squad could be constructed around an interior once the game changed from being played from the inside out to the outside in. Towns was clearly going to be selected first overall as the draft drew near, but most people thought Jahlil would be selected second by the Lakers. In Kobe's final season, they had some young players like Jordan Clarkson and Julius Randle, so it made sense to add their center of the future. Despite missing his rookie season, Julius Randle appeared to be able to compensate for some of Okafor's shortcomings in terms of defense and rebounding. However, it was not how events transpired. Taking a chance on a less complete prospect, they chose D'Angelo Russell. This was terrible because it meant that Jahlil Okafor dropped to number 3 and was heading to Philadelphia. For the past few seasons, Sam Hinkie had been using the process to assemble the worst teams in order to acquire top picks. In the recent years before, he had already spent top picks on Joel Embiid and Nerlens Noel, 2 other big men. But since Embiid was sidelined for the season, Jahlil stole the stage. He started the season with impressive scoring totals, recording 26 points in his debut and 17 and 7 overall. He was not being referred to as an underperformer, bust, or anything else. It was a successful season for the first-team All-Rookie member. He was most likely in that third position on the rookie stage, outside from Kristaps and Towns. However, it was the extent of the benefits. His rookie stats were a complete waste of space. Without Embiid, they were struggling, going 0-16, and as a result, tension started rising. Okafor demonstrated that maturity and leadership were not his assets when he got into a street brawl with a heckler in Boston. Jahlil's season ended with mixed reviews, and he only participated in 53 games before suffering a torn meniscus. Although 17-7 were valid numbers, there were also clear issues with his game that had to be addressed. His lack of speed and general laziness were particularly noticeable during transition and the pick and roll, where he was a liability on defense and a black hole on offense. When he was on the court, he was outscored by an average of 16 points per 100 possessions, giving him the lowest net rating on the squad. Due to the injury, he was limited in minutes going into his sophomore season, but he was also sharing time with Joel Embiid. The Philadelphia fans forgot about Okafor after about one game. Okafor was no longer that man, and Embiid was clearly more gifted. Jahlil couldn't get more than 30 minutes at best, even when Embiid wasn't available. His fall was so big he split minutes with Richaun Holmes and was light years away from his former self. This guy wasn't the same Okafor. Whether it was the pressure of being a top choice and losing to Joel Embiid, who happened to excel in the most important areas where Okafor was lacking, or the injury bug that kept him out for a significant portion of that season. In 22 minutes per game, he only contributed 12 and 5. He was your number 3 pick 2 years prior, and again, now he was sharing time with Richaun Holmes. The Sixers mismanaged this situation big time. Sure, give him some time to grow and play, and if he's not your type, trade him. In exchange for finding a suitor, you receive a larger trade package. Instead, they said forget about the guy and shot themselves in the foot like they regularly do. The next season, Okafor asked for a trade, but no interested teams were found. They squandered everyone's time and allowed his stock to fall rather than buying him out of his contract. Furthermore, they moved him to the Nets for essentially nothing after letting him sit on the bench for the first part of his third season. When you consider that the wife of the team's CEO created untrue rumors on anonymous Twitter burner accounts slandering Okafor, the issue becomes even worse. After missing half a season, Jahlil was now in Brooklyn and was obviously in very bad physical and mental condition for basketball. His weight and his diagnoses of anxiety and depression were evident on the floor. He hadn't improved on any of his NBA shortcomings thus far. As was expected after this year, they waived him. If your first reaction was that it happened too quick, that's because it did. Basketball did evolve almost overnight, but the revolution against these post-up guys happened maybe too fast for them to adapt. Okafor was essentially worthless by the last year of his contract, and his laziness and failure to perform simple tasks like rolling hard and setting nice screens didn't help either. He only had one skill, and that skill was failing him when it came to scoring enough points per possession to win games. After a few injuries, the Pelicans gave him another chance, and this time he had a lot of ups and downs. During his 2 years with them, he averaged 8 points a game in 15 minutes. Again, these gaps made him more of a headache than a valuable post-scoring alternative, but it's still not horrible. Okafor's final opportunity came in Detroit, when he saw a decline in his numbers and nothing particularly remarkable happened. We already know who he is, and looking back, it's clear that he failed to develop in any way, in addition to the game moving on from him. He bears the majority of the blame because he didn't live up to the high standards of his play before entering the league. Although there was clear talent here, he did not grow at all while in the league, and a lot of PR efforts failed because there was no one to back them up on the court. Before joining a Mexican G League squad, Okafor punched his ticket to China and showed figures comparable to his rookie year, pushing 20 and 10-ish, but that doesn't have any weight considering that's not much of a competitive league. After the episode in China, a Mexican G League looked like he was on his way back up. Averaging 20 and 8 on 70% shooting was pretty good. The fact he's 27 years old after all these setbacks in life proves he may play some more professional basketball. We've made a case for LiAngelo Ball making his way into the league, so it's not impossible for Jahlil to somehow land a contract, at least for bench warming. Many believe that he was drafted into a system that prevented him from growing, and that was the main reason he never became the player he was supposed to. The Sixers simply threw him down in the learn to adapt or die environment he found himself in. That's it for today, Hoop Fam. We hope you've enjoyed this video. Let us know in the comments if you think Jahlil Okafor can come back into the league. Thank you for watching and growing this channel. Make sure you don't miss out on more NBA stories by hitting that subscribe button. See you in the next one.